We know that shoppers are shopping across platforms. They're shopping at different retailers. Our approach is really following the shopper and really setting the foundation of the right principles of how do we affect that behavior.
Hi, Lisa. If you would, please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about the work of AMP Agency.
I am Lisa Hurst, and I lead our client service teams across AMP Agency. We are an full service agency, end-to-end marketing that really combines the best of both commerce and creative storytelling into one. So really thinking about how the marketing funnel has been obliterated. We are actually creating an agency and capabilities and building those capabilities around delivering brand building and driving conversion simultaneously.
How do you define a retail back approach and why is it so critical today?
Today's marketing landscape is evolving at a faster and faster pace. I think this is a conversation we continue to have. It accelerates at an even greater clip. And in today's marketing environment, everything's shoppable, literally everything. Making retail, both when I say retail, I mean both e-commerce and brick and mortar stores, really a significant influence in that buyer journey for the consumer or the shopper. And our retail back approach really starts with orchestrating and identifying those shopper insights that are most influential in affecting buyer behavior.
What pitfalls do brands fall into when sales, media, and operations are siloed?
A siloed approach really creates friction points in the process for both the business and for the consumer or shopper. For the business, an integrated or retail-backed approach is more efficient. And in today's environment, ensuring that we make the most of every marketing dollar is extremely critical. And for the consumer, it's about creating that seamless experience by removing those friction points, removing those barriers, and having a consistent experience for your consumer builds trust, helps with conversion, drives loyalty. So you really want to make sure that, sort of the sales elements are firing on all cylinders and you're connecting your messaging with the right media at the right touch points that's closest to the shopper point of decision.
How does this approach improve alignment with retailers like Walmart and Amazon?
Really, as you think about Walmart and Amazon, big retailers that really are, sort of shaping and they're kind of controlling a lot. I think right now we're seeing the shopper having a lot more of that control given the different platforms that they're kind of cross-shopping, cross-learning about products on. And I think a retail back approach really ensures that the message and the experience and all the interactions are really focused on that conversion moment and really sort of maximizing that impact when it matters most for the shopper or consumer making that choice. And whether that's online or in store, just really consistency. You're going to hear me say consistency a lot because I really think that's important in today's sort of marketing because of the channels is making sure that your brands really stand out. And I think consistency in messaging and expression is one way to really do that.
AMP talks about turning silos into seamless execution. What does that look like in practice?
I think it's really interesting. Like as you think about the way our team is structured, it's we have subject matter experts who really work across the different areas, whether it's retail excellence team or shopper media, and kind of breaking down those silos and having those subject matter experts come together to solve a client or brand problem and bringing that to bear. That kind of really helps break down those silos and start to see where there's synergies for experience to make that sort of a seamless experience for the consumer.
How do you bridge sales, marketing, and retail media into one integrated plan?
AMP is an agency that's part of Advantage Solutions. We're sort of on the marketing arm of Advantage when Advantage is their sales brokerage sort of legacy gives us unparalleled connectivity to the retailers. So we use this sort of I would say, differentiator to really unlock opportunities for the brands, figuring out the right moments and right connections, focusing our work with those retailers to capture whether it's retail media or in store or big drive periods, really thinking about how we bridge those different pieces together and really create demand closest to where the consumer is making that choice to put the product in their basket.
Can you share an example where unification delivered measurable results?
Sure. One of our clients is Riviana. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them. They have a variety of rice brands, like Minute Rice is one example. And it is both, we have the benefit of it being an enterprise client working on both the sales side and the commerce marketing side. And we really have the ability to kind of deliver the promise of that end-to-end full volume impact for our consumer or shopper. So we work with our sales counterparts and really make sure that we're aligning the trade calendars with our marketing efforts. So really identifying, in the case of Minute Rice, a great example is a seasonal push like back to school. We're all in the back to school session now, so we know this is probably a little hits close to home for some of us. And with Minute Rice, we know mom is stocking up. We're getting back into routine. We're getting back into, resetting those weeknight meals. And so we want to ensure that we have both our trade offers on and we complement our marketing. So whether that's recipes, inspiration, and a convenience message, giving that moment of back to school with our new products that we're promoting. So really delivering that consistency of the brand experience all along the journey and making sure our messaging and our offers are really working hand in hand to really inspire that purchase and the purchase of our brand, not just the category.
What tools or processes enable teams to stay connected across functions?
At AMP, we have more of an integrated planning approach. And I think that's really the secret sauce. It's ensuring that we're delivering an optimized experience for that consumer and shopper and really seeing that ability to drive the impact for their business. So I think the way that I think it's really more our approach. We certainly have a lot of software and tools that we use to keep us sort of all on track. But to me, it's really connecting the different subject matter experts around solving a problem and connecting those functions. So we're making sure that we're really thinking about all angles of that experience and how to drive more seamless and consistency through that experience.
Omnicommerce is one of your big pillars. How do you build strategies that work across channels?
Omnicommerce, we're looking at omnicommerce is a big buzzword because that's kind of how everybody's shopping in today, cross channels, cross platforms. And we really kind of look at the shopper journey, take a step back. Where are those places and spaces that are most influential to them where we can influence their behavior in a most impactful way. So we're looking at building the strategies with our teams from both a connections planning standpoint, as well as the insights that help transform those strategies into ideas that are really going to influence their behavior.
How do you balance online, offline, and retail media in one cohesive approach?
Our team at AMP is really structured in a group of specialists that really understand how to understand deeply and intimately whether it's e-com or really understanding how to activate it or retail. So as we're looking at, working across sort of that, the way the consumer is and the shopper is experiencing the entire journey, we're looking at those barriers, those triggers to drive impact. So really omni-commerce planning is sort of at the heart of our DNA, and it's kind of the core of our planning process, which is what I think drives that more cohesive approach in the end.
What role does the digital shelf play in unifying the shopper journey?
The digital shelf is really has been, I wouldn't even say becoming, it has been one of the really critical tools. It's kind of the glue, I would say, and often sometimes the starting point of, today's modern shopper journey. It really bridges the physical in the online search into a place, where consumers are seeing, seeing the product, discovering the product, purchasing the product. It allows really kind of, looking across those platforms. The digital shelf really creates the place where consumers are learning, and whether they're, and it's influencing their behavior, whether they're putting it in their cart online, buying through Instacart or another digital platform, or just creating that sort of discovery where they're making a mental list and planning that influences their purchase in a brick and mortar environment.
How do you adapt when different retailers have very different ecosystems?
We know that shoppers are shopping across platforms. They're shopping at different retailers. Our approach is really following the shopper, and really setting the foundation of the right principles of how do we affect that behavior. We have retailer intelligence teams. It's about 50 people across the US, really co-located near closest to the retail environment. And they really know how to best activate at those retailers to get the desired results. And so we look at, we work with our retail intelligence teams to understand how do we make sure that we're maximizing what we're doing at that key retailer to, ensure that we're delivering effectiveness for the brand. So we kind of have principles that sort of guide our overall strategy. And then we have execution by tapping into that sort of inherent knowledge that exists at each of the different retailers. So we know how to really drive impact, or the most impact at that retailer for that shopper.
Data and behavioral science are core to AMP. How do those come to life in execution?
One of the things I say is like our process starts and ends with data, right? It's kind of like this full closed loop. One of the things that we have used is Nudgeomics. And so Nudgeomics is a database tool. We also look at sort of market intelligence, business intelligence, kind of pulling in what are those levers? How do we understand what the business problem is? Where we're going to maximize, where we can get the most incrementality, what is the business problem we're trying to solve? And then we kind of had the behavioral piece of the insights to combine with that to set the foundation for our strategies that we then use to brief our teams, whether that's in a media or with creative. So you start to see the action of those insights come to life in a way that really delivers an execution.
How do you use behavioral insights to guide creative and media?
So I mentioned Nudgeomics before, and I'm not sure if you are familiar, but it's essentially our proprietary approach as we think about sort of insight development that drives action. So Nudgeomics, it's been around for some time, but how we use it is really what I think makes it unique to AMP. Is it marries behavioral science, so why do people make the decisions they make, and behavioral economics, which is the economic, sort of dynamics that are influencing that behavior. And so we use those to create these nudges. We know, I think there's been proven in science that it's like 95% of decisions are made with our emotional subconscious. So, but still, a lot of the strategies that we see in marketing are really focused on that 5% that are a bit more rational. So with Nudgeomics, we're sort of flipping that script. And the nudges are these simple motivators to kind of help shoppers kind of give them a kind nudge in the direction we want them to do. We've identified 10 nudges that are the most influential. A couple of them include things like herding. What is the seemingly most popular? Gamification, instant gratification, novelty. Those are just a few. And we've mapped them to our target segments. And so from a national level or drilling down to a specific retailer, we can really make those strategic choices. So it becomes the nudges we include in our creative briefs. And they help with making choices from a media standpoint, as well as creative choices on messaging claims that we might share and we might use to create to kind of connect with that shopper in a more meaningful and motivating way.
Can you share a case where storytelling plus data shifted shopper behavior?
There's so many fun examples of cases we have at the agency that do that. But one of my favorite is a recent program we did with Keebler cookies. And Think about the Keebler elves, which are those iconic little characters that probably give you a bit of a feel good feeling about your childhood. So we use those cookies as a way to connect. And we just needed like a little spark. And so we tapped into, as I talked about Nudgeomics, we tapped into the nudges of novelty effect and loss aversion to really kind of reimagine how the Keebler elves could be part of this new moment with families and sharing the cookie and having a feel good moment with those cookies. So essentially, the package had a sort of an experience that your phone unlocked, and you could create this sort of um, selfie with as it unlocked into this sort of digital studio where you created a selfie, and it used AI generated, of content to create you as the elf. So you kind of turned yourself into a Keebler elf and sort of transformed. The cookie became sort of this transformational portal for really fun personalization, for engagement, for fun and sharing. So just by scanning the pack, you kind of had this elf avatar of yourself, which became a very fun and viral way to share and connect. And so the results of this were absolutely amazing. We had 26% sales lift. We had strong ROI, and it was all just sort of having fun with a story, using digital to help storytell and using the data that we knew about consumers to kind of help unlock that creative idea that really drove a lot of engagement, and excitement because it was on pack and, got the product in the cart.
What's the difference between marketing that sparks attention and marketing that truly converts?
In marketing, certainly grabbing attention is very important. That's what gets the eyeballs. But sometimes it can be just that, just a flash in the pan, a shiny object, and you look at it, but then you're sort of confused by what it is. So, really it's important for, we believe that it's important to have it in a brand experience that really resonates in a more meaningful way that kind of connects with the hearts and minds of the consumers, having a compelling call to action, having a consistent presence, that drives that consumer preference and drives conversion. So it's really, and sometimes I think even something that sparks attention can also drive conversion, right? I don't think they're mutually exclusive. I think it's about making sure that the insights and the data that you're acting on really is something that the consumer cares about and can really drive that action and turn it from just, sort of a wow to, really kind of affecting that behavior of the consumer to say, not just wow, but wow, and I want that.
Integration isn't optional anymore. Why does end-to-end alignment matter so much?
When you're not connected, I think it shows. It's just sort of wasted dollars when you're not really thinking about that seamless integration for the shopper experience. The tighter the strategy, the more influential I think you can be along that journey. So, when we think about, retail media and a lot of other things, all being connected from the sales. So everything in the sort of ecosystem of the process really needs to work hard. The product has to be on shelf, making sure that the stories we're telling and the demand we're driving, it all sort of works seamlessly for the consumer or the shopper.
How do you ensure PDPs, inventory, and content all sync with campaigns?
I think, again, this is about connectivity, integrating strong communication with the teams, with sales, marketing. When it is seamless on the back end, it feels seamless for the consumer and more fluid for the consumer or the shopper. If your retail media doesn't match your PDP page, you have lost them. So really, again, I think consistency is one of my key themes about creativity today. But I think ensuring that the consumer sees the branding, and it continues to show up with the right, more seamlessly, more connected, across all of those touch points, it really builds that trust. So I think that's one of the things is, making sure that all of those pieces really are telling the same story you want for your brand.
Why is a seamless brand plus retailer plus shopper experience the new baseline for success?
As we think about sort of the funnel is obliterated, I think that because there's so much cross shopping, you discover a brand on TikTok, you research it on Amazon, you buy it online, you go pick it up in store. There's so much fluidity happening, and that fundamental change has really sort of created this demand. So winning with our today's shoppers really is about creating more of that consistency and convenience for the consumer at every step. I think by creating a more seamless experience where the brand, the retailer, the shopper experience all seem so fluid together, really I think builds more trust with the shopper, drives that conversion, makes it easy to buy, makes it easy to buy more, makes it easy to buy another thing, and then ultimately delivers that loyalty for consumers. So the repeat purchases that we're looking for.
For anyone interested in engaging with you and your team, what's the best way to get started?
At AMP, we're excited to solve your sort of brand and shopper challenges, and looking to, we're creative problem solvers, and I think retail experts. So the ability, we love the chance to understand your brands and how we can help enable, more creative solutions for youth in today's wild retail environment. Reach out to us at ampagency.com. Or connect with me. I'm L Hurst, Hurst at ampagency.com.